Hi everyone. So I think we'll give it like a couple of minutes just before we start, just to give everyone enough time to join. So we'll just wait until maybe 2-3 minutes past. So I think we'll get started now. I'm sure more people will join as we go on. So just to start then, just want to welcome everyone to today's Kubrick joint webinar with Target Jobs. And this is going to be on entering a career in data and tech with no prior experience or skills. So just to start with, just before I introduce you all to our amazing speakers, just to give you a little bit of a brief overview about Kubrick. So what we are then and what we do is we exist to help tackle the digital skills crisis. And we do this by paying graduates and junior professionals with no relevant skills or experience in data, AI, or technology and train before assigning them to leading clients where they work on real world projects for 2 years. So to date, we have supported nearly 100 organizations across industries to overcome the growing skills gap and change the lives of over 1,500 graduates and professionals. So just kind of the purpose then of this webinar is to understand how a career in data and tech can be possible with Kubrick through having no skills or experience in the field of data. And you'll also be getting to hear firsthand from Kubrick members on their journey and their experience of getting into tech, as well as some top tips they would give on how to do this. And just lastly then is please save any questions just towards the end because there'll be time for Q&A there. So without further ado, just to begin then, I'd just like to ask each of our speakers just to introduce themselves. So if we start with you, Mirella.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. Very happy to be here today with you. My name is Mirella Gurova, and I'm an associate principal at Kubrick, and I work together with the rest of our training team in guiding our consultants through their first steps in data and tech. I specialize in Python, data science, and machine learning, and I mostly work on delivering that training to our consultants here at Kubrick.
Amazing. And then should we go, Amira?
Yep, of course. Hi, everyone. Lovely to see you all here. Excited journey ahead of you. I'm Almira. My background is, recent graduate, not so recent anymore. It's been 3 years that I'm at Kubrick, which is basically ever since I've graduated, I got this job. At the moment, I also work as associate principal together with Nini Morella. My focus is more towards enabling new technologies as part of our curriculum that our clients are having interest in, and we're adding those into our skill set. As a result, there are also a lot of internal projects that want to leverage those skills, so I participate in those too. I've graduated from not so technical background. I did molecular biology, and I guess you'll hear more about my journey shortly.
Amazing. And then Kate?
Hi, sorry, I think I removed myself there, but I've got back in. So. My name's Kate Lodge. I graduated from my maths degree in 2016, and then I worked as a transport planner for 6 years before joining Kubrick as a trainee data engineer towards the end of August.
Amazing. Well, thank you for introducing yourselves, guys. We do also have one other speaker that will be joining. She's just in something prior right now, but her name is Isabel. She was actually in the same training cohort as Kate.
Sorry, I'm late.
Val, honestly, you couldn't have timed that better. I was just introducing you as we were speaking. So as you're here now, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, I'm Isabel. I'm also on the same cohort as Kate. I've came from a biology background and almost finished the Kubrick training, so very excited to be here.
Amazing. Well, thank you all for obviously partaking in this webinar. I'm sure many people have a lot of questions to ask you, but before we get to all that, just a couple of questions for you guys. So just to all of you really, just to start off with then. So just to try and understand what interested you in a career path in tech, and what was your route into the field like? Because I know you basically just touched upon, like Almira and Kate, you've had different routes into this career path, and just sort of how you reached that judgment that you wanted to do a career in data and tech, really.
Yep, I can go first.
Sounds great.
Cool. So for myself, I guess as for many of the listeners today, I was very confused in the middle of my degree. I was like, what am I actually doing? What am I studying for? What's next? I thought I was going to be a clinical scientist, and hence the molecular biology background. But then I've had exposure to various research studies, and I kind of saw the world of science, and I was like, I'm not sure it excites me as much anymore. I don't know if I want to be on that side of the fence. And as part of the degree, you do get to do some projects that touch you with data in one way or the other. And the actual anecdotal story that got me into looking and applying for places like Kubrick was once I was traveling on a plane to one of the summer internships to Brazil, which is quite a cool story. The person who sat next to me, they needed a pen to fill in a tax form. And it was like, oh, what are you going to do? I was like, oh, I'm going to do a placement. But what about yourself? Oh, I'm a data scientist and I'm just, I can work from wherever I want. And I was like, what? I don't need to sit in the lab forever in a dungeon and do things. And it's dark in there. Is that possible? So basically, it was that moment that got me into looking for careers in tech and having that flexibility, because that was the priority for me at that point in time, and no regrets so far.
That's great. And then anyone else they want to talk about theirs?
Absolutely, I can follow suit. Well, my background is kind of different. I spent actually all of my childhood competing in maths. I was the typical math geek, and I decided to pursue that fascination for maths academically by doing my bachelor's and my master's at LSE in econometrics and mathematical economics. That was my idea of, let me take maths and apply it in a field. And then after I graduated, I started thinking about technology, and the appreciation I had for technology basically stemmed from my capacity as an econometrician, as a person who wants to work with data. But at that point, I realized that my academic background was deeply theoretical. I knew how to solve stuff in theory with a pen and paper, not really in practice. And at that point, to me, pursuing a career in data and technology was the only way I saw, just to make sure that my academic and background and business skills didn't become obsolete or inapplicable over time. And in hindsight, for the last years of working in that industry, I've acquired so many transferable and universal skills, which allow me to work in any type of project of any nature, whether it's business focused, whether it's technical. So yeah, that's on my end.
Yeah, I think it was similar for me, that I did, maths is a very sort of theoretical kind of subject sometimes, especially at university. And I really enjoy solving problems. I'm a very practical person. I like to sort of look at a situation and go, okay, what's the solution here? What's the best solution? What's the most efficient solution? What's the neatest solution? So I think that's why I kind of really enjoy working in data.
Sweet. And not to recap, I have a very similar story to Elmira. Mine is the plane, but I was doing biology and like finding that it took a lot of time and effort and like manpower to get like some really simple like results at the end of it. And then when I took my first biostatistics class and suddenly found out that you could get like so much more powerful results using data rather than like standing in the lab breaking your back all day. So I was just like, yeah, out of laziness is why I've chosen a career in data.
No, I mean, it's really interesting to see all these, you know, different backgrounds, whether it's like in STEM or non-STEM, and like Kate with you as well, that it took a little bit longer to figure out that you wanted to get into data and tech. I think it's really interesting, and especially for the audience, depending what they've come from, I think that's really useful for probably a lot of people. And I know with yourself, Mirella and Elmira, that you've sort of gone through the process and as a consultant, and now, you know, you're both still working at Kubrick as senior associates. And just a little bit like how that transition was for you both.
Absolutely. Well, I joined actually together with Elmira. We were just like Kate and Belle are in the same cohort. We were data engineers. We joined in 2019. So we went through the 3-month training period, which looked completely drastically different to what we currently have, which is a good sign because we're evolving rapidly. And after that training, I completed my 2-year development plan period, which is on client site with a major financial institution, which was a very interesting experience because I was that's the first real kind of professional experience I had, and I was thrown in the deep end. I was basically turned out to be the person who was driving innovation. I was automating processes, introducing advanced analytics to senior management, to the bank's front office. So it was really an experience that just an eye-opener in terms of the power that tech and data harness in itself. And this year in the beginning, I returned back to Kubrick, this time on the other side of the fence as part of the training team. So I'm now training consultants. The AP role, the associate principal role that Elmira and I share is extremely versatile, and it's always focused on our consultants. They're our main stakeholders. It involves different tasks, for instance, creating content, training, delivering that training to consultants, leading data lab projects or other training projects with consultants, working behind the scenes on optimization and admin work, and many other things. Elmira can share a little bit more about her experience because we are actually doing separate, different things. So it's a very versatile role.
Yeah, I guess to add to that, so you've heard actually that there are a lot of parallels in the webinar and the participants you have. We were together with Miri, so it was October 2019 that we got accepted. It was June, July for myself when I graduated from uni with biology background, and yeah, there couldn't be more gratitude and looking forwardness in the journey, and it was really, really cool. So for those listening out there, if you're considering a career and you think that you don't have the skills, that is kind of where Kubrick shines. We get you in and we suck you in and we give you all the little skills, and you just need to be the awesome human, you know, and be interested in learning all of those skills and then applying. So that exactly happens to me, it happens to myself. It is about to happen to Belle and Kate as well. I joined client side literally before the pandemic started. I think Miri joined a bit earlier maybe, or there was some sort of waiting period. Yeah, and then on client side, as we call it in Kubrick, I was doing something completely different that I was trained in, but as a result I ended up picking up even more skills, which is really cool. This is what you want at the start of your journey. So it is about your mindset a little bit as well. It's like how you look at things like that, like, you know, anecdotal as they happen, how you take them. And as a result, I helped develop also like a bunch of valuable kind of tools on client side with a financial institution. And I got approached by kind of head of our training and offered this new title. I joined before Miri. It was May 2021 that I joined, but the associate principal role started existing in April 2021. So I was the second AP to join, still here, as you can see. And I do slightly different things to Miri. The focus more for APs is now on training, but I kind of sit a bit more in like internal parts, and I look out, as I said already, for kind of new tools and new technologies. What does the client demand? Because the data industry is shifting. Actually, every day there's a new technology that all of a sudden everyone's talking about. So yeah, I'm trying to make sense out of that. And honestly, it's very gratifying to be paid to learn, it's basically the essence of my job at the moment, which is really cool. And I'm not sure if I answered your question because I kind of lost the plot there.
No, I mean, you have definitely. And I kind of what I was going to just lead on from that for yourself and Morella is like, I know you've briefly touched on it there. It's just kind of what a typical day will look like for you both.
Yeah, me to go first.
Kate and Belle can say what a typical day looks for me. I jump on a call usually at 9 a.m. with a cohort of 40 consultants on their cameras, and I'm like, "Good morning, everyone. It's time to do some core Python or data science together," and then trying to kind of drag them through and incentivize them through, the reasons why we're doing what we're doing as part of the training. Yes, I'm doing a lot of training, which probably comes across as very technical, but that's the most social job I've ever had. I'm speaking to about 100 people daily on calls, troubleshooting code, helping the training team, strategizing. It's a very dynamic job, very social, and yeah, it's a great thing to have to wake up to, basically. Just knowing that you're going to interact with some awesome people of similar background with identical mindset to you. Kubrick is very youthful. We have a lot of young people, which is great because we are basically discovering the same issues, facing the same issues through our journey together, and we help each other throughout that.
For me, I don't train as much as Miri does. I train technologies that take 1-2 days to pick up, but sometimes consultants remember me too. My typical day involves interacting with many parts of the business. I would say I speak to sales folks to understand what are the client demands. I speak to kind of our advanced consultants on client side to understand if there are any projects to prepare for consultants. So I help, engaging with stakeholders from that side. When it involves those new technologies I mentioned, I try to get around myself a little group of consultants who are waiting to be placed and get them to help me create some projects that we can use internally. So also a lot of social work, a lot of technical reading, a lot of time with code, which is amazing if this is what you enjoy. And yeah, a lot of creative work too, which is very exciting. My days are super varied. Tomorrow, for example, I'm training, so basically apply Miri's day to myself, and that will be my tomorrow.
I mean, no, touching on that, I mean, it sounds very like what you kind of said at the start, very versatile role, which I'm sure will be very interesting to a lot of people. And I mean, leading on from that as well, then with Kate and Isabel, I know I met you both almost at the start of your journey when you started the training. And now obviously you're coming towards the end of it, and you're thinking about now the next steps of going on a client site. But just to kind of take it all the way back to the start, then just kind of what attracted you both into Kubrick when you were looking at applying?
So I think for me, like, it was just a really great stepping stone to sort of get into the industry. I didn't really know that much sort of about data. I sort of used spreadsheets in my job and things. So, I didn't know these kind of amazing sort of big data skills and softwares. And it was just it's an amazing way to just, to learn it all at once with this amazing support, like these fantastic trainers, like these lovely ladies, and just learn all this amazing stuff, all at once. It's amazing because, like Elmira said, it's really gratifying to be paid to train, to be paid to learn. And it's just a really great way to kind of kickstart your career, I think.
Yeah, it was definitely similar to Kate. I think coming from a biology background, all of the technology that I was trained with are quite limited. Like, they were really powerful for what I was doing, really interesting, and I got a keen interest in that. But then I found myself trying to do more varied things and found myself very held back by what I was used to, and also getting quite frustrated with all these really buggy softwares that didn't that I didn't have a good grip of. So then when I saw this huge tech stack that we were able to be trained at, like Kate was saying, able to be paid to be trained for a few months, and also to get such a good ground in all of these different technologies, I just thought that sounds perfect. It's like exactly what I'm interested in.
No, I mean, that sounds great. And I know obviously you've touched on, you know, how amazing our trainers are at Kubrick, obviously Amira and Morella, and just sort of with the training then, how have you found like everything that you've learned? Do you sort of face any challenges with that? Obviously, I know Belle's saying coming from biology background, did it find it difficult, you know, getting to grips with, you know, some of the stuff that you learned during the training?
Sweet. Yeah. Yeah, I think that because I did a little bit of Python beforehand, but it was a package called BioPython that only had a few things. And so I thought myself, oh, yeah, BioPython, veterans over here. And I thought, oh, okay, I know how to work Python then. Showed up on day one with Mary and was like, oh, it turns out I don't know everything.
I ruined your world back then for a couple of hours, but hopefully, like in hindsight, yeah, it's a necessary step. I mean, sometimes just going in, just diving in the deep end of a technology is overwhelming. It never gets easy. It's just building that mentality of actually, I've done it once, I've done it twice. I can do it a million times if need be. I know the tools, right? Let's Google, let's ask a friend. So, sorry, I hijacked you. Go back to Belle.
No, that's perfect because yeah, Mary was super helpful during that training because we had, what was it, 2 weeks or so to go through core Python, and so that was just really helpful after a while to be able to have this grounding in all of these different core principles that were split into different topics. So then we could go back and recap what we needed to, and yeah, felt a lot more comfortable after that with the help of Mary being very nice to all of us.
Yeah, I definitely think sometimes as well, we'll start doing something, and for the first day or the first couple of hours, you're sort of like, what is happening? You're another new thing. I have no idea what's going on. And then after a little bit, you're like, oh, wow, this feels completely normal now. And then you sort of go and start a new thing. So sometimes it's just, you sort of start out and you're a bit lost. And then like, immediately you're like, oh, okay, I actually completely understand how this kind of fits into things. So it's a really great way to understand how all these different kind of technologies fit together as well.
But definitely, I mean, I've seen some consultants in our office and they'll have their dual screens up and they'll be chatting away to me and they'll be saying, trying to explain something. And I say, it may as well be in a different language. And they said before they started the training, they said they were exactly the same. So I think that's almost a testimony to you guys with the training, how, impactful it is for a lot of people who haven't come, especially from a STEM background. But yeah, I mean, as well with that, then I know Kate and Belle, you're obviously coming to the end now of the training, and just sort of what are you looking forward to in the next steps or in the weeks ahead with finishing and just sort of, going on that client site? Is there anything in particular that you're specifically looking forward to?
Yeah, I mean, so the last 2 weeks we spend doing a sort of real life kind of client project. So that's really exciting to kind of all work in different teams and work on kind of different aspects of the project, and then kind of really learn how all the sort of separate technical skills we've learned actually fit together in a real life situation. We're kind of applying things that we learned in week 1 and we're applying things we learned last week. And it's just like, it's a bit of a whirlwind. It's kind of really nice and exciting to kind of see it all come together like that. So that's kind of been really exciting for me, and I'm excited to see it through to the end and sort of see what kind of outcome we get kind of overall as a cohort. And then just to I'm really excited to kind of go out on client site, start using all these kind of skills I've learned and applying them in a kind of real life situation to kind of, improve the kind of, the work of like my kind of client company.
Yeah, I think I'm similar to Kate, but also because I'm a bit more fresh out of university than Kate is. I'm quite excited this client project's been the first time I've seen kind of in real time what the data pipelines I've been working with look like. And so it's really exciting for me to see how things are actually done in the real world. And I think, yeah, I'm just excited to find out more and actually understand more about how these technologies are implemented day to day.
No, definitely. And sort of, I think it kind of extends on from that, just sort of with your, data engineering career, just sort of how you see it progressing in the next couple of years. I appreciate that might be a bit far in advance, that you haven't thought about it yet, but just sort of how you see that progressing.
I'm excited to just be Miri in 2 or 3 years. No, I'm really excited to kind of, gain a lot of expertise and kind of, start to kind of really get kind of in-depth understand some of these things, and hopefully become kind of a sort of technical expert kind of figure, and then potentially also starting to kind of supervise other data engineers and kind of, be able to sort of do that kind of role as well.
Yeah, it's similar to Kate as well now, but I've really liked finding different bits in the training where I've been like, oh, I'm super interested in this and I want to do more of this. Like, I really enjoyed learning about like cloud-based computing and like using like cloud storage, and I really enjoyed that. And I'm just hoping that whatever client site I go to, that I can like show the people that and like work on teams that are like migrating the data onto these cloud-based sources. So yeah, just to learn more and become more of an expert about things that a few years ago like I had no idea about.
No, definitely. And I think just sort of opening it back up to you all now, just some a bit more general questions, just in terms of, when you've been working in a career in data and tech, just do you feel like you've faced any barriers in this journey? I know obviously being a woman, getting into this industry, they may particularly feel like they face some barriers or like some stigma, just seeing it typically as a male dominated industry, and just if you faced any challenges and just maybe how you've overcome them.
I can take the lead here. Now, obviously, everyone is facing, everyone has a different journey. Everyone's facing their different own specific kind of barriers to entry. Now, ironically, I'm coming from a country, an Eastern European country, so is Elmira, where ironically women prevail in STEM, they prevail in IT, they prevail in science. So I was not raised with the mindset of, oh, I'm a girl doing maths or, coding, I am an outlier. Like, that has never been the case with me until I was 19, and then I moved to England to study. And that was the first time when I actually started noticing that there aren't as many girls as I expected on my lectures or in my stream. And that kind of tendency, that pattern appeared over and over again throughout my master's, and unfortunately is something you notice as well in the tech industry as well. Now, I, however, can't really put my finger on a single reason that prevents women from technology. I'm a very strong advocate that this whole stereotype is a complete nonsense. I couldn't disagree more with this. All skills needed to build a career in data and tech are completely gender agnostic. Everyone can come to me and try to fight me on this. I will never change my opinion on that. All the skills you need is basically skills you need for any other job, right? Time management, logic, analytical way of thinking, attention to detail. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that women in general possess all of those skills above the average level. So yeah, it's an enigma to me, this stereotype, and I think Kubrick is doing all the right steps in kind of to ensure that gender parity, to ensure that diversity in this industry. And I think we're extremely proactive in initiatives, in partnerships, all of which aim to demystify this whole topic of diversity. And our partnership with Women in Data is one of those manifestations. That's basically a platform which provides female or gender diverse tech professionals to share their experience, to share their know-how, and encourage representation in the industry.
Nice one. I'll follow on from Miri's answer. I'm kind of similar in the sense that growing up, I never really knew there's some sort of gender gaps or anything like that. It's like 50-50 boys, girls, peoples in the class, whatever. We all are different. We all are us. And then it kind of starts shining through. Already told about the biology background, so you can sense that a lot of percent were girls. So we were quite the opposite. However, once you enter the more senior roles in science, as well as later I noticed in tech, this is when I guess you can notice that kind of westernized stigma that it's mainly male-dominated senior roles. And this was interesting to unpin. I actually had like a couple of experiences when discrimination or some sort of it was called out that there is a doubt in skill set or a kind of seniority of female leaders by male colleagues of theirs, and you're wondering why is that happening? Why are you doing? Because as female people, as girls, I don't know, we actually need to fight a lot to defend our place when we see the senior people being male. I think this is the hard part. And I think what Kubrick is doing really cool is making sure there are so many girls are injected early in their careers and encouraged to progress, so that down the line in 5, 10, 15, or whenever a year's time, the Miris, the Kates and Bells can be there and, can rule the world with data, etc. So I think from that perspective, Kubrick is a really cool place. Similar to Miri, when I kind of joined Kubrick, I started hearing a lot about this gender gap and how we're fighting this, and there's this percentage and that percentage. And it kind of puzzled me a bit. I was like, yeah, of course, of course there are girls. Girls like computers, girls like things, girls like technology. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I guess if you're a girl and you're thinking that you don't fit or something like that, yes, you do. You have all the skills. It's just about curiosity and being ready to roll up your sleeves, and that's it. If you're a guy and you're thinking, yeah, I think it's unreasonable that there's so many guys there, everyone needs to be there. Yes, obviously, you're a nice saying guy. So that's kind of fine. Just be human, and everything will get there. And I think, yeah, as I said, Kubrick kind of exists there to make sure our future is, equally diverse, and we all are there, and we all are working together, and we don't even have those questions in mind like we didn't in childhood. So yeah.
Yeah, I think just to follow on from that, sort of from my perspective, having sort of grown up in the UK and done maths at university, one of the first things that people would ask me is, oh, is it mostly men? Are you one of the only women? Even sort of back then. And also having sort of worked a lot in the kind of engineering industry, which is also kind of not always the best for diversity. I think that one thing that I see a lot of my colleagues and sort of friends kind of struggling with, and one thing that I sort of struggle with myself, is that I don't really like to put myself forward for things unless I'm completely confident that I can do them. And so I think that was one of the reasons why I was so attracted to applying for Kubrick, was that I didn't really need to know anything. They kind of, will teach you everything, and that's absolutely great. And I think that that's something that I would sort of encourage everyone else to do is, you don't, whatever you're doing, you don't actually have to meet all the criteria. You can probably work it out as you go.
You literally took my words from my mouth. I've literally written that as a tip, right? Women are so risk averse. Usually when you apply for a job position, you're like, if I don't take the 100% of the requirements, I'm not doing it. Like on average, no man does that, right? If you take 60%, you're probably going to apply for it. Like we need to be a little bit more confident in general and just take a risk and not allow that risk averseness translate in our professional life and success.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think for diversity again, I've got quite the opposite experience to the three of yous, in that when I was growing up, I'm from quite a small place, and so there weren't a lot of women in professional roles when I was younger. So for me, it was more I was entered into a Women in Science program when I was in my teens, and that's what inspired me to go and study biology, and that's what gave us the opportunity to then come to Kubrick. And so I think it's because of earlier experiences like that that's given me the freedom and the opportunity to find spaces like the Women in Science programs at the university that I would encourage people to interact with, and also places like Kubrick that really champion diversity, and have encouraged people like me and people like us to to apply and to develop our skills better.
No, I think, what you've all said there, I think it's really empowering to obviously see from all your guys' backgrounds, just to see so passionate about data and tech, and just, coming from these different backgrounds, and that a career in this industry is possible. And I think, what Belle's just kind of said, I think with Kubrick, it really does champion and celebrate, diversity, individuality, and just celebrating the different qualities with, all our consultants and HQ staff. And I think one key point that I know Kate and Morella, you've both touched on, just saying about, imposter syndrome, and just how, especially with women, I think, you are afraid to put yourself forward if you're not meeting 100% of, the criteria of anything. Whereas I know, like, it might be the case for males, if it reaches like 60%, they'll put themselves forward. And I think women, what you're saying now, putting yourself forward for things, even if you're not 100%, you feel like you don't meet that criteria, the likelihood is you will be able to do that job, you will be able to do that challenge. So I think it's just, really great tip for a lot of people that will be watching this webinar. And I mean, that's kind of led into what I was going to say to you next. Obviously, just, finally, do you have any sort of tips for, women trying to get in a career in data? Just any last thoughts? I know you've kind of briefly mentioned some there, but any just lasting thoughts on, like I said, women trying to get into a career in data and tech?
Absolutely. I think everyone has their own tips. As a woman in data myself, I've learned a thing or two. Like, obviously, I'm learning everything new by the day. So don't treat it as an exhaustive list of tips. The first one is absolutely, you need to be a little bit more confident, okay? And currently, even when you see a woman that applies for a job, that usually means that she's usually overqualified for that job, right? So if you see a woman applying for something, probably she's the best candidate across, because she has kind of thought about it 5-10 times and check that she ticks all the boxes. Another tip, which is a continuation of that, is I learned it the hard way, but you have to acknowledge it is still a male-dominated industry. And that doesn't mean that women don't have a place here, but we need to learn how to communicate effectively in such industries. I learned the hard way the fact that I need to basically change the way I speak and present my work. So I had, in professional environment, I had to delete words from my vocab, such as apologies, sorry, may I interfere, may I, suggest something, maybe it would be better. Like, don't be overtly apologetic. Don't show self-doubt. Show respect to other people's work, but also demand it in return. And the final tip from me would be find a professional mentor. Find someone to look up to. I had the privilege of having women as line managers for the last 3 years. All of them highly respected, highly driven, women in data, women in tech. And what this does to you is it's a daily reminder it's possible, and it gives you that role model to work towards and to aspire to. And you can always speak to them and just discuss any struggles and make sure that you're not, on your own.
I can go next. Great tips from Miri. Hopefully people are not jotting them down. I'll come from a slightly different perspective. I'll address those folks who joined this webinar specifically because you're thinking or maybe doubting about the career in data or things like that. I've always struggled with, finding and realizing what I want. I still do day to day. It doesn't matter that I'm happy at work. I'm still questioning, so what's next? Where am I heading to? What are my dreams? So for people feeling similar, I guess the advice I can give you based on my experience so far is give it a go. Try. If you think that you're interested in something, try things out. If you're here in this webinar, this is probably a sign for you to try apply for similar places like Kubrick. If you're thinking that actually what those people told might not be what I really want, then perfect. You kind of already added a little data point into your collection of information. And I was similar. I thought I'm going to be a clinical scientist, as I said, but then I attended various practices and various summer internships, and that helped me decide that this was not my route. And that's okay as well. Thinking that you want something and then realizing that actually maybe it's not is okay. Be kind to yourself. I guess, yeah, you can tell the things that worked for in the past for me. And yeah, one more advice is akin to Miri's: seek for a mentor, but also do give back. This is actually really, really rewarding. You're always one step ahead of someone who is following your footsteps. So giving back and speaking to people and, you know, opening up about your journey actually maybe allow yourself to get even more clarity on what you want next, because you're helping out someone who is literally just following you, and this could be great too. So yep, I guess the advice here is be open, try things out, and give back to others, and this will be good. Will set you for a good journey.
I mean, I'm not sure there's too much to add to that. That was a very exhaustive list by you both. But I would also say, like, I think everything's a sort of learning experience. As someone who's making a relatively large like career and life change, you know, I do agree with Elmira. I think, you know, change is a good thing. You know, and everything is a kind of a learning experience. Like, you know, just because you're not doing what you did before doesn't mean that was a failure and then this is the right thing. It's you sort of learn from everything, and you sort of take lessons forward and learn something about yourself from everything that you can kind of take into the next kind of step in your life, whatever that is.
Yeah, to be honest, I think this advice is as much for me as it is for you as well, because I'm still quite a bit of a baby in me journey in data. But yeah, I would just reiterate what the others are saying. I definitely think surrounding yourself with like good role models, like the other women in this call today, is just really, really useful, really important to to kind of steel yourself against what challenges you'll face. Because I think for sure there will be challenges along the way, and it's really important to have a good community of people who you can be like constantly getting advice from, and to help you along the way.
No, I think all your tips there will resonate with a lot of people. And I just think finally, just to ask you all, is just in terms of data and tech, then if someone is looking on this webinar to pursue a career, just why should anyone just choose to work at Kubrick?
I don't want, with the risk of sounding cheesy or anything, Kubrick was my first kind of employer. I look back for the last 3 years, and I honestly couldn't have imagined my experience going in that direction without actually having Kubrick kind of push me initially, train me, open my eyes in the right directions, give me the platform to work for a client, which otherwise is pretty much extremely difficult to reach when you are a recent graduate, right? So our client pool is extremely diverse, but at the same time, it's full of known names, which you usually reach, professionally only once you have that 5-10 years of working experience. So having that as a platform, having that experience given to me early on, it really equipped me and made me realize that that was the right choice. And the other thing for me is just the similarity of mindsets, the people I work with, the engagement, the network that I have built. Because let's be real, 10 years or 20 years from now, I will probably have a network of 1,000 people who will be on senior or managerial roles in data and technology. This is something that we don't really speak about right now in Kubrick, but it gives you that access to a network which has so much potential in the long run. And networking is it's a strategic thing to have, not just in industry like technology and data, but in any other field.
For me, it was iterative process, the word we use a lot in data. But basically, after that plane journey, I did a bunch of courses like Data Camp. Maybe people who are on this call heard of platforms like this, basically like learning platforms that allow you to pick up some skills. Similar to Bell, I picked up all the possible kind of modules that do programming or stats. And afterwards, I started. It was actually I can call him mentor, one of the lecturers who kind of pushed me into the direction of exist a bunch of companies who hire and train you and then place you. I didn't know about that bootcamping model at the time, but I've applied to one that he pointed me to, and they did like a 4-week training and a 1-year placement and X amount of money. I got the offer, and then I applied to another one, and they didn't pay well. They'll train you, but it's like a 2-month training, and then you have to find a job yourself. And then I saw Kubrick, and I was like, oh my God, that ticks all the boxes. They pay and they increase the salary, and the technologies are cool. It's not some random language that no one uses or technology that is dying. It's actually like, known. So that was a huge seller for me, deciding to apply, and it was my goal, and I prepared hard. So back to the advice part, Glassdoor is just a gem of a resource if you're preparing for your career steps and interviews. It was my bread and butter back in the day, just after graduating. So yeah, Glassdoor is cool. And yeah, as you can see, no regrets. Similar to Miri, I only realize now, like, forcing myself to look back where I am from today to 3 years ago, it's incredible. This place gets you to places, it's like it opens so many doors. It's really, really cool. And yeah, Kubrick was my number one choice for sure. I rejected all the other offers, and they called me and asked why, and I was like, well, there you go. This is why. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd absolutely just echo what Elmira said, especially like from where I'm sort of standing, 14 weeks into the sort of 15 weeks of training. The amount we've learned is insane. I had never written a line of SQL before I joined Kubrick, and now, just sort of typing away, so it's absolutely amazing. And that's just 2 weeks of the training. It's absolutely crazy how much we've learned and how fast we've learned. And I just think the opportunity to train before you even, set foot on client site is just amazing, because you can be immediately useful to your client, and there's no sort of sitting around waiting for someone to teach you something. You just get straight into it, and sort of, you have the kind of tools to really just get going and have a go. So I'm really excited to sort of get out there and and then do that.
Yes, I don't think I have anything original to say. I think what everyone else has covered is true, and I really think that the training, the breadth of training, is unique and is really special, and also the community that it affords you, and with such a range of clients as well, you're going to get to know people who work for all sorts of different companies in the UK. So yeah, definitely recommend Kubrick.
I would also just add on to that as well. I think the community, like within your cohort, is really lovely. Like you're all learning the same stuff, and it's kind of really nice. Like friendships are formed, and that probably sounds quite cheesy as well, but I think it's been really fantastic. Like meeting all these people who are doing the same sort of thing. It's a really kind of unique kind of community feel that we have, I think.
No, definitely. I think leading on kind of what you've all said, I think it's one of those things that I think it's hard when you're working at Kubrick, because obviously, for a lot of people, you think you're just trying to sell the company, but it really is one of those places, I think, when you tell people about the program itself, that you're paid to train, you'll be working with other like-minded people during your training, then you're on client site for 2 years, the salaries increases. I think you're almost thinking in your head, where is the catch with this? Because this sounds too good to be true. But it really is an amazing model that Kubrick have. And obviously, having it from first-hand people, Elmira and Morella, you've been through it yourself, Kate and Belle, you're going through it currently now. And I think the fact that you're all saying the same things, I think it's just really great to hear. And obviously with the support side of thing as well, just saying, through them cohorts, the friendships you make as well. I just think, for a lot of people, because it can be quite daunting, especially if you've come from that non-STEM background, going into a training cohort for 15 weeks, if you're doing that all by yourself, I know that I can imagine for a lot of people that would be quite daunting. But having that support, not only with obviously your trainers, but with people that are on that training cohort as well, I just think it's great to see. And obviously Elmira and Morella, you're still good friends today, and obviously Belle and Kate, it's just great to see that journey for all of you. And I think then, just to wrap it up then, obviously we're going to put some questions to the audience now. What it will be is the questions here will be just for the speakers, and anything that's recruitment based, we'll be sending a follow-up after the event. So that will give you an insight into about the process to applying and the entry requirements. So that will all be included in that. So these questions will be aimed at our amazing speakers. So yeah, any that come through, we will answer shortly. And obviously, I just want to thank, before we go to the questions, our panelists for joining and taking the time to speak. I'm sure you've inspired a lot of people on this call. But yeah, also the webinar will be recorded and that will also be sent out post-webinar. So I'll just have a little look now. So these will be aimed at the speaker. And like I said, any recruitment questions or application process, anything like that, that can be answered post-event. But I've got one come through now. Hi ladies, my background is in business, development and recruitment. What tips do you have for the application process for a tech consultant role? What is the most important skills that I need to have?
I think starting with the second question, because it kind of feeds in very nicely with the background of Marcella. Actually, the most important skills I am a big kind of advocate for are the business skills. They're not the technical skills. You need operational independence. So if you're a consultant, you need to know how to approach a situation, a possible challenge, and turn it in an opportunity. And the second thing is how to sell an idea. So the business skill set of how to present your work, how to sell your work to your business stakeholders, because let's face it, I'm working with business stakeholders through and through, and everyone who is doing consultancy job, even if you're in data and tech, that will be your audience. So having that background is treated as the biggest plus possible. Here at Kubrick, we do not make any assumption of what you've done before academically. So it's a great opportunity for you if you want to make that leap or do that career pivot, so to say, in data and tech. Having a business background might fit very nicely with streams such as data product, data management. These are all things we train here in Kubrick.
As part of the recruitment process, just to add to that, you will actually need to demonstrate your potential commercial acumen and business aptitude. So yeah, as Miri said, treat it as a benefit of yours.
No, that's great. And I don't know if Kate or Val, do you have anything to add on there or? No, that's great. And I mean, there's another question that's come through. I know obviously Kate and Isabella are on the data engineering program, but someone's just come through and just saying that they have an interview for a data product position with Kubrick next week. And could they just get a little insight of day-to-day tasks carried out? So, I mean, I know yours will be more faced data engineering, but I don't know if that'll give them a little bit more of an insight and just sort of, yeah, during training and after training for the particular role.
No, for sure. Yeah, like in terms of training, we've shared a couple of classes with the data product engineers, and yeah, it's just like what we've like mentioned before. Like you log on to Teams at like 8:30, sometimes 9 in the morning, and then you have a lovely trainer who will take you through the plan for the day, and then you'll be able to code along with their demonstrations, or sometimes it's a bit more theoretical and we're talking about like some of the maths behind some of these like softwares were being used, and also always the use cases and the business case for the different things we'll be learning as well. And you get an hour for lunch and then usually finish about 5:30.
I would say as well, there's just so much variety. You know, like 1 week you'll kind of be coding and 1 week you're learning a software. And then sometimes we do projects in our sort of like groups where you sort of learn how to kind of combine and apply lots of the things. So it's really nice because you could sort of every day is a bit different. And if you kind of, you know, if you're a bit stuck on something, or, you know, you sort of don't stay on things for too long, you kind of constantly moving and learning sort of new and different things.
Just to add to that, what we also try and do during our training, folks, is to give you actually an environment that will be akin to what it will be like on client side as well. So we will try and mimic the teams that you will join once you're a member of your client side. As a result, you'll be having your daily calls together. They're called stand-ups. You'll learn all that kind of jargon that is used inside as well. And as a data product consultant, I could actually add a bit about my kind of first placement experience, because I was essentially like a data product consultant. I had to liaise a lot with technical people and the business people. I had to understand what business people wanted and make sure that the technical people built what business people wanted, not what technical people wanted to build. So that kind of technical translator role is what I've done. A lot of presentations, a lot of speaking and persuading people in something sensible, obviously, because that's kind of the whole reason. Being critical about decisions made in your team, actually getting into the nitty-gritties of what is it, the problem that you're trying to solve, as Kate said at the very start, the thing that she enjoys a lot. It wouldn't be, say, I didn't have a chance to use that much code, but I would be working with people who would build the code based on my explanations of something that the client has requested, for example. So things like that you can expect, I guess. It's just a one, example of what a data product consultant could do. So best of luck in your interview. Hope you pass.
That's great. And then we've got another question, just someone asking, did any of you have to relocate for the role?
To the source.
I used to live in London. I did my training here, and then my financial institution, my client, was in Canary Wharf, so I didn't have to relocate. And currently, I'm completely flexible to work from wherever I want. So that's a massive plus for me because, as I already mentioned, I am coming from a different country. My family is in a different country, so I can actually go and, for once, see them more than 10 days a year. So I usually just crash on my parents' sofa for a couple of weeks, and I can work from there, which is quite flexible and very nice.
So I could say what my experience was. I've been hopefully allocated a client with a remote role, so I didn't have to relocate. But because I was already planning to anyway, I did move to London. But yeah, I think there's quite a few remote roles. I think especially nowadays with a lot of things being hybrid. But yeah, that's what my experience has been.
I had a chance to apply for a region-specific position because this is where my partner was working. So I was attending London office for training, which the case now is that majority of training is remote, but you have days when we expect you to come so that you can actually experience teamwork and bond with each other and things like that. Me and Miri, we were full-time in office back in the days before pandemic, obviously. But my client placement required me to be in Bristol region, which was good. It worked for me. So if you have specific kind of requirements in terms of location, it is usually a good idea to raise it with your hiring manager and see what can be done. Being UK, I think, is a requirement for tax purposes, if that's the question that you have. There you go.
Yeah, I was sort of living in Bristol before, but I was sort of happy to kind of make a change and try living somewhere different. So I think I'm most likely going to be moving to London for my sort of client placement as well.
That's great. And then I think this will be more for Mirella and Amira, and just with the training, is the whole of the training fully remote?
We were part of a cohort that was trained in person, and then lockdown happened, and as part of this, the whole fail fast approach, Kubrick had to move towards a fully remote type of training, which we're still doing because of various reasons. For instance, the trainers are now, some people are not located in London, other peoples are traveling, and so on and so forth. There will be very in the near future some steps towards having live training back in the game. Currently, it's very difficult because our cohorts are now 30 plus people, and we don't have the facilities yet for that. Our existing office space has been kind of built to meet the needs for lockdown type of business. But very, very shortly next year, there will be all the equipment and the facilities will be there to have and hold sessions which are fully in person. Right now, we sometimes occasionally have those trainings in person, or more regularly than not, we hold the project in person, and then we guide our consultants during their project experience in person. So you get that connection to the trainer.
I would also just add that I think, while we're training, part of it is online and part of it's in person. But actually, I know those who live in London, do still come into the office. I think you still have the option to come in. You're not sort of forced to sit at home in front of your computer for all day. There's a lot of options.
No, that's great. Well, I can see as well, we've had a couple of questions come through about the recruitment process, which like I said, will be sent after the event. We'll be able to answer any of them questions for you. Like I said, there'll be a follow-up email with a link, obviously, to watch the webinar from Target Jobs' YouTube channel, as well as just giving all the information and insights on application and answering any further questions. But yeah, for now, I just want to say another huge thank you again to our wonderful speakers. You've been amazing. And like I said before, I'm sure you've inspired a lot of people to consider a career in data and tech, as well as applying to Kubrick. So yeah, I just want to say one last thank you to you all. And I hope everyone watching enjoyed the webinar, and we'll be following up with you shortly. But yeah, thank you again.
Thank you. It's been all my pleasure.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, girls and Ellen. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.